Shalom Aleichem, Ahmed Yashar here. God, there's a nice backdrop here so it won't be all white. This week's parasha is called in Hebrew Kedoshim tihyu, and you shall be holy. This parasha consists of Leviticus chapter 19 and chapter 20. If you don't know what parasha means, I don't remember if I said it in Hebrew or English just now. Parasha is the Hebrew word for section or segment, and this is what we call the weekly portion of the Torah that is read on the Sabbath. Each week there's a different portion of the Torah that is read. The vast majority of the people, of the Jewish people throughout the world, read the same portion of the Torah in unison throughout the world every week. So this week's Torah portion, Kedoshim tihyu, and you shall be holy, begins. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, You shall speak to the entire assembly of Israel. And you shall say to them, You shall be holy. For I am holy, I the Lord, your God. You would think the emphasis of these two chapters being that you should be holy, for the Lord our God is holy, being that these two chapters both begin and end, re-emphasizing this fundamental of the faith of Israel, this central message of the Torah that God has given to the world through Israel, that we should be holy, we should be set apart from the rest of the world that has gone astray, and that we serve God and our minds are constantly to be focused on Him, and all our actions, we are to aim, at least, that they will all be done for His sake and in accordance with His will. You would think that in beginning two chapters wherein this is the focus, that following the thesis for these two chapters, it would immediately go into commandments between oneself and the Creator, commandments which seem most exalted and sublime for the most holy of people on earth, such as spending hours in prayer or fasting, or something regarding actions done in privacy among the most holy and righteous of individuals. But instead, this week's Torah portion begins elaborating on how one is to be holy, for God is holy, how one is to be sanctified, for God is sanctified. It begins to elaborate upon this by specifying some of the most basic and also important principles with regard to how man is to interact with man, in contrast to what I said before, as one might expect, that it would elaborate upon how man interacts with his Creator. Some of the very well known and very important aspects of interpersonal relation that are touched upon in these two chapters is the command to love your neighbor as yourself, the commandment to love the immigrant who joins himself to the people of Israel, the commandment that one respect his father and mother, the commandment that one honor the elderly, the commandment that we not walk in the foolish and idolatrous ways of the nations, and one of the most hard commandments, in my opinion, also for me, I have to daily repent of this, especially work on myself, and that is the commandment that we should not speak or behave insultingly towards other individuals. Now, why would it be that in emphasizing the importance of being holy before the Lord your God, it goes on to elaborate upon such universally known and universally appreciated commandments? I suspect that the reason for this is because it is impossible for an individual to do all of the more lofty commandments between himself and the Creator, such as prayer and studying for hours on end in the privacy of one's own home, and not just so that others will see and appreciate how much you study, and whatever other good deeds one might think that are particularly with regard to the relationship between man and his Creator. Wow, I lost my train of thought there. You would, all of these types of lofty acts that one may do, how can they be done in the proper spirit and in the proper type of relationship with God when one isn't in the proper frame of mind with regard to how he interacts with other people whom he sees? How can we properly respect and love God who we don't see and who we can easily hide from our immediate consciousness if we're not able to behave kindly and respectfully to those who we encounter every day? I think that is the main reason why this Torah portion begins, "You should be holy," and then elaborates upon the most fundamental and well-known, perhaps also most commonly, what's the word? Neglected commandments, instead of going on to high and lofty actions that the most righteous would be presumed to focus on. This is in line with the main purpose of the Torah, and that is to be a remedy to the world, to elevate us in our relationship with God within this world. The Torah, God's commandments, aren't to take us out of this world so that we'll be separate in the sense of living secluded in some far-off desert and never having to deal with difficult situations, difficult people. That is not the ideal of the Torah. The ideal of God's message to mankind is to live in the real world and to better ourselves, fix our character traits so that we can relate in all these difficult situations in the correct manner and influence the world around us to draw closer to Him and to be an inspiration to others to do the same. These two chapters do not neglect the aspect of serving God that includes fearing Him and so on. But over and over again, just turn that off. But over and over again, the chapter connects the fear of God with doing these particular actions with other men, other human beings. You should stand up before the elderly, for you should fear the Lord your God, and so on and so on. Also, you see that immediately following the first two verses wherein we're commanded to be holy to God, it then says, Ish imo wa avihu tira'u. A man, his mother and father, he should fear. And then it goes on and says, Wa Shabbathai tishmeru. And my Sabbaths you should keep. Ani Adonai Elohechem, for I am the Lord your God. Yes, you should honor your father and mother, correct. But don't forget, Shabbathai tishmeru. My Sabbaths you must keep. For we all have one Father. Ultimately, we all have one authority. You should honor and heed your parents and do all you can to honor them. But this does not include heeding them when they desire that we be led astray contrary to the will of God. However, not in contradiction to this, but in elaboration upon how to do this properly, the sages of the people of Israel, members of the great Mosaic court, elaborated, stating that if your father or mother teaches you something or tells you to do something which you know for a fact is wrong, you don't jump up and say, aha, but my rabbi or my sheikh or I read here or there that what you're saying is wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. Mom, why are you trying to lead me away from God and make me sin? Dad, you should go to church more often, or whatnot. That's not the way that you react to your parents. If your parents say something that you know is incorrect, the way that the sages of Israel instructed that we deal with it is to both honor God and honor your parents in such a situation. And how do you do that? You do so by saying something along the lines of, I hear you, Father, or I hear you, Mother. But didn't we learn together that the correct thing to do is actually this? Or Mom or Dad, let's say that they want you to be studying the Bible, but Mom, you say in a humble, you're supposed to say in a sense of innocence and humility, but Mom, didn't we learn in this place, or didn't you tell me that I should follow what it says in the scriptures? And didn't we learn in the scriptures last year that it says this or that? But you don't say it with a haughty sense of self-pride and in a sense of belittling your parent. Doing so is not a sanctification of God's name, nor it is a praise. It is not a praise to His name, and it is also not an honor to your mother or father. So while you might be right, you might also be violating God's command at the same time if you are not careful to deal with such a situation in the proper manner.